Hello students, welcome to MNR's digital classes. In this session, we are going to learn about the relativistic Doppler effect. The content of this presentation is collected from two books. The first book referred is Specialty Relativity by A.P. French. It is the first edition published in 1968 by W. Norton and Co. Another book used in the preparation of this content is Mechanics and Relativity by Vidwan Singh Soni. First edition published in 2009 by PHI Learning India. We know that the observed frequency or wavelength of a periodic disturbance is modified when there is a relative motion between the source of disturbance and the receiver. Christian Doppler, an Austrian physicist and mathematician, first proposed this effect in 1842 in his treatise. This apparent change in frequency or the shift in frequency is called as Doppler effect and is observed in all cases of wave propagation like sound waves as well as light waves. The hypothesis was experimentally tested and confirmed for sound waves by Boyce Ballot in 1845. He found that the pitch of the sound or the frequency was higher than the emitted frequency when the source approached him and lower than the emitted frequency when the source of sound is receded from him. On the basis of this, Boyce Ballot confirmed experimentally the hypothesis given by Doppler in 1845. Armand Hippolyte Fizeau, a French physicist, discovered independently the same phenomenon on electromagnetic waves in 1848. At that time, this name was not yet in use. The concept of electromagnetic waves are not yet introduced. It is in the case of light waves. In France, this effect, that is Doppler effect, sometimes also called as Doppler-Fizeau effect, but the name was not adopted by the rest of the world as Fizeau's discovery was made after 6 years of Doppler's proposal. So, the relativistic Doppler effect is the phenomenon in which the apparent change in frequency of light caused by the relative motion of the source and the receiver, taking into account the effects described by the special theory of relativity. John Scott Russell, a British physicist, made the experimental study of Doppler effect in case of light waves in 1848. Now let us understand the mechanism or the phenomenon of Doppler effect in case of light waves. Now let us consider a light emitting source, for example, sun or any other star or moon is approaching or receding away from the receiver. Then the frequency or wavelength of light appears to be changing as perceived by the receiver. This change in frequency or wavelength of light is known as Doppler effect in light. Let us understand this with the help of this diagram. Let us consider an observer in the frame S who is at rest, and consider a source of light at the origin of another frame S dash, which is moving with a velocity v to the right. As the source in the frame S dash moves away from the observer, the same number of waves, when both are at rest, let us say a certain number of waves are accommodated within the distance between the observer and the source. Let us take the number of waves will be equal to C into delta T. If the source of sound starts moving away from the observer, then the same number of waves will occupy a greater distance given by C into delta T plus V into delta T. So the conclusion is, as the number of waves is same, the wavelength gets increased. Similarly, if the source approaches the observer, then the same number of waves will occupy a lesser distance. In other words, the wavelength decreases. This apparent change in frequency of light increases when the distance between the receiver and the source of light decreases, and vice versa. Now let us understand the effect with the help of a simple diagram. Now observe here. Here we have a source of light and two observers. One observer standing to the right of the light source and another observer standing to the left of the light source. Now the light source is moving from left to right. The region where the light moves towards the receiver, that is on the right in the diagram, it perceives the waves which are squeezed, and hence there is an increase in frequency of the light. Observe here, to the right side, the waves are squeezed, that is the wavelength decreases, or in other words, there is an increase in frequency. This light is referred to as blue shifted, that is lower wavelength side, or is called as blue shift. Now, in the region where the light moves away from the receiver, that is to the left in the diagram, the observer perceives the waves which are stretched. Observe the diagram. The waves get stretched, and as there is a decrease in frequency of light. This light is referred to as red shifted. Redshift. When the when the source is receding away from the receiver, then the frequency of the light appears to be decreasing, or the wavelength of the light appears to be increasing as perceived by the receiver. Therefore, the spectral lines get displaced towards the red end, hence it is known as redshift. Similarly, when the source is approaching the receiver, then the frequency of the light appears to be increasing, or the wavelength of the light appears to be decreasing to the receiver. Therefore, the spectral lines gets displaced towards the blue end, and it is called as blue shift. Astronomers commonly use the synonym red for longer wavelength and blue for shorter wavelengths. These names are used because a signal which is red shifted is shifted to the longer wavelength side. Similarly, a line which is blue shifted is shifted towards the shorter wavelength side. We know that the visible part of the spectrum, blue line corresponds to shorter wavelength, red corresponds to longer wavelength side. Now let us derive the expression for relativistic Doppler effect. That is expression for apparent change in frequency in relativistic case. Consider a light source moving along the x direction as shown in the figure. Let a receiver A be sitting below the line of motion so that he receives light pulses at an angle theta with the direction of motion. A is the source of light, receiver, sitting at an angle theta with respect to the line of sight, and S is the source which is emitting the light and it is moving along the positive x direction. When the source is at the position minus x1, see the figure, it emits a light pulse at an instant t1 in the S frame, that is the receiver's frame. And when it is at x2 and minus x2, it emits another pulse at time t2. As the source moves at two different instants of time, t1 and t2, it emits the light pulses at positions x1 and x2. Minus sign taken indicating that it is along the, those 2 points are in the negative x direction. The actual distance of the position x1 from A is r1. Observe this, r1. And similarly, the actual distance of position x2 is r2. See the figure, r1 and r2. The signal emitted from minus x1 at t1 reaches the receiver at A at an instant t1 plus r1 by c. t1 is the time at which it started emitting, and from x1 to reach A, it takes certain time. C is the velocity of light. Then the distance traveled is r1, therefore the time taken is r1 by c. Similarly, the signal which is emitted from x2 reaches the receiver at A at an instant of time t2 plus r2 by c. The time interval between the two pulses reaching the receiver at A in the rest frame is given by tau is equal to, let us take this time interval as equal to tau. Then the time interval between the two pulses is given by t2 plus r2 by c minus t1 plus r1 by c. The difference in the time intervals are rearranging the terms. We get t2 minus t1 minus r1 minus r2 divided by c. Call this as equation 1. If the distance x2 minus x1 is much smaller than r1, then we can write with good accuracy r1 minus r2 is equal to x2 minus x1 into cos theta using basic concept of trigonometry. If the source of light is moving with the velocity v, then x2 minus x1 is equal to v into t2 minus t1 using the basic definition of velocity. Therefore, r1 minus r2 is equal to, in place of x2 minus x1, can substitute v into t2 minus t1 into cos theta. Call this as equation 2. In the S0 frame, that is the rest frame of the source, the pulses were emitted at instants of t1 dash and t2 dash. Here we have two frames. In the observer's frame or the receiver's frame, the time intervals are t1 and t2. In the rest frame of the source, let us take the time intervals as t1 dash and t2 dash respectively. Then the time interval between the two signals is given by tau naught is equal to t2 dash minus t1 dash. Using the theory of relativity, the time dilation relation, T2 minus T1 is equal to gamma into T2 dash minus T1 dash, or gamma into tau naught, substituting for T2 dash minus T1 dash. Call this as equation 3. Here, gamma is given by 1 divided by root of 1 minus beta square. This is the relativistic parameter where beta is V by C. We are introducing two symbols, gamma for 1 divided by root of 1 minus beta square, and beta is equal to V by C. Using equation 2 and 3 in equation 1, that is T2 minus T1 and R2 minus R1 in equation 1, we get tau is equal to gamma tau naught minus V by C into gamma tau naught into cos theta. Taking the common factors, gamma tau naught common, we get 1 minus beta cos theta, where beta is already we know V by C. This implies tau, the time interval between the two pulses reaching the source, observer at A, is equal to 1 minus beta cos theta divided by root of 1 minus beta square into tau naught. Here, tau naught is called as the proper time interval between the two signals at the in the frame of the rest frame of the source. Tau is the time interval between the two signals received by the receiver in his own frame. Call this as equation 4. Let F is the observed frequency, that is the frequency of the light as measured by the receiver in the S frame. This frequency is also called as the improper frequency. And F naught is the frequency of the source in its own rest frame S naught. This is also known as the proper frequency. In terms of frequency, equation 4 becomes F is equal to, take the reciprocal of this, we know that frequency is equal to reciprocal of time. So F is equal to root of 1 minus beta square divided by 1 minus beta cos theta into F naught. This implies F is equal to F naught divided by gamma into 1 minus beta cos theta. Call this as equation 5. This equation 5 gives the general expression for relativistic Doppler effect as measured by the receiver in frame S. That is the stationary receiver. This is the special case of a stationary receiver receiving the signals from a source which is moving in an arbitrary direction, making an angle theta with the line of sight. Now suppose if the light source is fixed, stationary, and the receiver is in motion making an angle theta dash with respect to the line of sight, then we can write the expression for relativistic Doppler effect as, that is equation 5 can be represented as F dash is equal to gamma into 1 plus beta cos theta dash into F naught. To distinguish, we write F and F dash. The relativistic Doppler effect given by equation 5 can be expressed in terms of wavelength as lambda is equal to gamma into 1 plus beta cos theta into lambda naught, where lambda naught is called as the proper wavelength, lambda is called as improper wavelength. The factor delta is equal to F divided by F naught, which is equal to 1 divided by gamma times 1 minus beta cos theta, is known as the Doppler factor, and this factor figures prominently in the theory of relativistically beamed emission. In many phenomena where the relativistic effects are taken into account, we use the Doppler factor delta is equal to F divided by naught. The factor gamma inverse, that is 1 by gamma, is purely relativistic effect and it is the result of time retardation, while the factor 1 minus beta cos theta appears even in classical theory also, classical Doppler effect also. Now let us discuss the results of relativistic Doppler effect. We have two types of relativistic Doppler effects, first order effects and second order effects. When the velocity of the source is very small compared to the speed flight, then it is called as the first order effect or classical effects. If v is not too small compared to speed of light, then we have to take into effect the velocity of the source also. This is called as second order effect or relativistic effects. We have the following three cases in which we take into account the relativistic effects. Longitudinal Doppler effect. Case 1. When the source of light is approaching the stationary receiver, then the angle theta will be greater than 0 but less than 90 degrees. That is pi by 2 radians. That is, observe the figure. When the source of light is approaching the observer, theta is in between 0 and 90. In this case, the equation 5 is found to be the apparent frequency or the observed frequency is found to be greater than the proper frequency. This observed increase in frequency is maximum when theta is equal to either 0, theta is equal to 0 or cos theta is equal to plus 1. That is, the source is moving directly towards the stationary receiver. The figure indicates this maximum case. In this case, the equation 5 becomes mathematically f is equal to root of 1 minus beta square divided by 1 minus beta into f naught, or writing 1 minus beta square as 1 plus beta into 1 minus beta. That is using a square minus b square is equal to a plus b into a minus b formula. 1 minus beta, we can write this as f is equal to f naught into root of 1 plus beta divided by 1 minus beta. Call this as equation 6. Now from this, it is clear that f is greater than f naught and hence the shift is towards the blue end and is called as blue shift. Now let us consider the second case, case 2. If the source of light is receding the stationary receiver, then the theta will be greater than pi by 2 but less than pi. That is greater than 90 degrees but less than 180 degrees. Observe the figure. The source is moving away from the stationary receiver. Then f is less than, in this case, f is less than f naught. That is, the apparent or observed frequency is lower than the proper frequency. This observed decrease in is maximum when theta is equal to pi or 180 degrees or cos pi is equal to minus 1. That is, the source is moving directly away from the stationary receiver. In this case, equation 5 becomes f is equal to root of 1 minus beta square divided by 1 plus beta, because 1 minus beta cos theta is equal to minus 1. So this denominator becomes 1 plus b into f naught. So this will be equal to f naught into root of 1 minus beta divided by 1 plus beta. All this is equation 7. From this formula, it is clear that f is smaller than f naught, or in other words, the frequencies get shifted towards the right end, or the shift is redshift. Now let us write the general form. The case 1 and 2 together is called as longitudinal Doppler effect. The general form of relativistic Doppler effect can be expressed like this. F is equal to f naught into root of 1 plus beta divided by 1 minus beta. Here, beta is taken as positive or greater than 0 if the source is moving towards source and observer are moving towards each other. Beta is positive. When they are receding each other, beta is taken as negative. Substituting for beta is equal to V by C, we can also write the expression as f naught into root of C plus V divided by C minus V. Call this as equation 8. Here, as I mentioned already, beta and V are taken as positive when the source and receiver are approaching each other. Similarly, beta and V are taken as negative when they are receding from each other. Now we have one more case of relativistic Doppler effect that is called as the transverse Doppler effect. When the source is moving in the transverse direction, that is perpendicular to the stationary receiver, theta is equal to 90 degrees or cos 90 is 0. See the figure. When the observer or the source is moving perpendicular to each other, in this case, equation 5 becomes f is equal to f naught into root of 1 minus beta square. The denominator becomes simply equal to 1. So we can write f is equal to f naught divided by gamma. This implies f is smaller than f naught. That is, the observed frequency is always smaller than the proper frequency. In other words, the shift is always redshift. So from these discussions, it is clear that we have two cases for longitudinal Doppler effect. In the one case, it is blue shifted when the source and observer are approaching each other. Similarly, when they are receding from each other, red shifted. Whereas transfer Doppler effect, we have only one case, and transfer Doppler effect always produces red shift only. Now let us give the conclusion for transfer Doppler effect. Transverse Doppler effect is purely a relativistic phenomenon. Let us understand this statement. We know that the relativistic frequency for the transverse Doppler effect is given by f is equal to f naught by gamma or f naught into root of 1 minus beta square. This is the relativistic formula. Now, if we consider the classical limits when the velocity is much smaller than the speed of light, then beta is much smaller than 1 or 1 minus beta square to the power of 1 by 2 is approximately taken as equal to 1. So, it implies f is equal to f naught. That is, no question of Doppler effect when the speed is much smaller than the speed of light. That implies there is no shift in frequency. In other words, within the classical limits, we do not observe the Doppler effect in transverse direction. So, transfer Doppler effect is observed only in relativistic situations, or it is purely a relativistic phenomenon. Thus, a transverse Doppler effect is a second order effect and is purely of relativistic origin. Essentially, it is due to the time retardation and has no classical counterpart. In classical limits, we do not observe the relative transverse Doppler effect, or we observe only the longitudinal Doppler effect. Whereas in relativistic situations, we observe both relativistic as well as transverse Doppler shifts. The major difference between classical and relativistic Doppler effect is relativistic Doppler effect produces both longitudinal as well as the transverse shifts, whereas the classical Doppler effect will produce only the longitudinal Doppler shift, no classical counterpart in case of transverse Doppler effect. Einstein in 1907 had initially suggested that the transverse Doppler effect might be measured by observing a beam of canal rays at right angles to the beam. That is, in order to measure experimentally the transverse Doppler effect, Einstein suggested a method. But the Einstein's suggestion cannot be practically implemented because at that time there were no particles available which are moving with the speeds comparable to speed of light. Experimentally, there were practical difficulties. The transverse shift or the relativistic shift of Doppler effect was found equivocally in a beautiful series of experiments in 1930s conducted by two scientists, H.E. Eves and G.R. Stilwell. In 1938, they were successful in observing the transverse Doppler effect or the transverse Doppler shift. They found small shifts in the wavelengths emitted by fast-moving atoms while attempting to establish the opposite. Actually, they were trying to conduct the experiments to disprove that special theory of relativity, but at the end, they end up with the measurement of the Doppler shift, which gives the evidence for special theory of relativity, experimental evidence for special theory of relativity, and also proves the transverse Doppler shift. Now let us understand the transverse Doppler effect in case of circular motion. The first case, when the source is moving in a circular path around a stationary receiver. In this case, the expression for relativistic Doppler shift is given by F is equal to F naught by gamma. Therefore, the shift is towards the red end. Observe the figure. The observer receives the sound, light, which is red shifted. Now, if the source is at rest and the observer is in circular motion around the source, in this case, the expression is given by F is equal to gamma times F naught, or it is get shifted to the blue side, blue shift. The receiver receives the light which is shifted to the blue end. If both source and the receiver, they are in circular motion around the common center, then the Doppler factor is given by F by F naught is equal to 1 minus omega square r square divided by 1 minus omega dash square r dash square within the square root, where omega and r are the angular frequency and radii of the source, observer, and omega dash and r dash are the radius and the angular frequency of the source. It is found that there is no Doppler shift when r is equal to r dash. If they are moving in a circular path of same radius, that is on the same circumference, then no question of Doppler effect. Now let us compare between optical and acoustical Doppler effects. Optical Doppler effect or the Doppler effect in light. This effect is also called as relativistic Doppler effect. Acoustical Doppler effect or Doppler effect in case of sound. This is also called as the normal or classical Doppler effect. The relativistic Doppler shift for light and other electromagnetic waves is modified to be consistent with the Lorentz transformation and relativistic time dilation, and is given by the expression F is equal to F naught into root of C plus V divided by C minus V. This is the expression for relativistic Doppler shift or optical Doppler effect. The general formula for acoustical Doppler effect is given by F is equal to F naught into V plus or minus V naught divided by V minus or plus Vs, where Vs is the velocity of the source, V naught is the velocity of the observer. Now let us assume that the source of is moving with the velocity V, which is small compared to speed of light. That is, let us consider the classical limits. We can use the approximation and we can write the formula as F is equal to F naught into 1 minus V by C. When V is small compared to C, we can write this term within the square root as 1 minus V by C. Similarly, if we apply the same approximation for acoustical Doppler effect, that is for sound, then we get F is equal to F naught into 1 minus Vs by C. Now observe here, the optical and acoustical Doppler effects were found to be similar to each other when the speeds are small compared to the speed of light. That is, within the classical limits, there is no much difference between optical and acoustical Doppler effects. In case of optical Doppler effect, we observe both longitudinal as well as the transverse shifts. In case of acoustical Doppler effect, we observe only the longitudinal shift and there is no transverse counterpart. The Doppler effect for light is symmetric. In case of light waves or any electromagnetic wave, the speed is same relative to the source or the receiver. We know that the speed of light does not depend on the material medium, and hence the relative speed is same with respect to both source as well as the receiver. Hence, it is only the relative motion between the source and the receiver that will determine the change in frequency, and the material medium does not play any. Whereas in case of light and in case of sound, the Doppler effect is asymmetric. In case of sound, the change in frequency will depend on whether the source is in motion or the receiver is in motion, even if the relative velocity is same. Depending on whether the source in motion or the receiver in motion, the apparent frequency gets changed. Whereas in case of light, whether the source is in motion or the observer is in motion, the expression for Doppler shift will remain unchanged. Therefore, it is Doppler effect in light is symmetric, while the Doppler effect in sound is symmetric. We can understand this concept by using the formula, which we already learned. That is this one. Now you go through this one. Even though the relative velocity is same, as the observers is moving, whether the observer is moving or the source is moving, will decide the apparent frequency. Whereas in this case of light, in both the cases, it will remain the same. The next difference, In relativistic Doppler effect, the equations include the time dilation effect and Lorentz symmetry of special relativity, but they do not involve the medium of propagation as the reference point. That is, the medium does not play any role. The medium in which the light is propagating does not play any role in Doppler effect. In normal Doppler effect or classical Doppler effect, the equations do not include the effects of relativity, but they involve the medium of propagation as a reference point. That is, the speed with which the medium is in motion, or the relative velocity of the source and observer with respect to the medium also play an important role. Now let us understand some applications of Doppler effect, relativistic Doppler effect. The Doppler effect is the heart of reliable and cheap police radar speed monitoring systems using microwaves. In case we neglect the relativistic effects, we consider only the classical effects. And we use the microwaves to measure the speed of vehicles in police radar systems. Second one, for astronomers and astrophysicists, the relativistic Doppler effect provides an invaluable tool for measuring the velocity of far-off objects such as stars and galaxies by measuring the shift in the spectral wavelengths they emit. By measuring the shift, we can decide whether the stars or galaxies moving towards the observer or away from the observer. Next application is Doppler effect is an important tool in modern cosmology. All the knowledge about how fast the universe is expanding comes from the observations of the Doppler effect in spectral lines. We know that according to Big Bang theory, our whole universe is expanding. The knowledge about the expansion of the universe, we get the information about the expanding universe by studying the Doppler effect of the spectral lines. Professor Edwin Hubble of USA made the observation of the red shift of nearly 46 galaxies, which helped him to conclude that the speed at which the galaxy recedes is proportional to its distance from us. This statement is called as Hubble's law, and this Hubble's law is an experimental confirmation for the Big Bang theory, that is the hypothesis of expanding universe. This Hubble's law is based on the measurement of redshift or the Doppler effect. Another useful application of Doppler effect is used in navigational systems. In order to track a moving body such as a satellite from a reference point on the Earth, we can use the Doppler effect as a navigational tool. This mechanism provided the basis for the navigational system that was created when the first satellites were flown. But in the recent times, this Doppler shift is completely replaced by global positioning system or GPS methods. The last one, the problem of twin paradox evoked by Einstein in his famous 1905 paper was successfully resolved in 1950s by employing the Doppler effect. Even though scientists tried to explain the twin paradox immediately after the Einstein's proposal, they were unable to find the proper explanation. But the discussion again come into picture during 1950s, and many scientific papers, more than 40 scientific papers were published on the basis of this concept of twin paradox. And finally, in one of the papers, the clear picture regarding the twin paradox was given based on the Doppler effect. These are the applications of, some of the applications of relativistic Doppler effect. Thank you.